So Variety recently published an article called Every Marvel Studios Movie and Show from Worst to Best. And I feel like anytime a publication does some sort of listicle, whether that's Billboard, IMDb, Rolling Stone, they just always get it wrong. So in this video, I'm going to be going through this article to see just how wrong it really is. But before we get into it, please be sure to give this video a like. It would really help me and my channel out, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss my next video. With that said, let's get into it. Alright, starting us off, we have Secret Invasion. Honestly, I think this is a pretty good placement. This is probably the worst thing the MCU has done. They took one of the best storylines from the comics and just made it into a really boring 6-episode series. I feel like the show also diluted the character of Nick Fury a lot, because it took away a lot of the mystery of him, and this character is just not as cool now knowing that he just had an army of Skrulls doing all of his dirty work for him. So yeah, so far, so good. Alright, next up we have Thor: The Dark World. I feel like this is always at the bottom of people's lists when it comes to ranking the MCU. I don't think it's great, but I think it's a little bit overhated. It is really boring, and it does deserve to be really low on this list. But I don't think it's the worst movie that the MCU has ever made. Honestly, I don't even think it's the worst Thor movie. But moving on. Next up, we have Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. This movie's bad. This movie deserves to be at the bottom of the list. It totally derailed the Kang plot before it even really took off. They used Ant-Man just kind of as a crutch to like soft launch Kang into the MCU. The visuals are not great. This is a really nothing movie. So yeah, it deserves to be this low on the list. Next we have Moon Knight. Now, honestly, I don't think that this show deserves to be this low. I didn't think the Moon Knight show was great, but I did think that it adapted the character pretty well. I liked how it portrayed Moon Knight's multiple personalities, how they kind of conflicted with each other, his tempestuous relationship with Khonshu. One thing that I think kind of hurt the series in some people's view is that we never really got to see the fight scenes. But I kind of like that element because it is so different than everything else that the MCU has done. It puts the audience in the perspective of the character by not allowing them to know how the fight scene went down, just like the character did. And I think that's kind of interesting. But I do not think that this show deserves to be this low on the list, even though it had a really bad finale. Alright, next up, Thor: Love and Thunder. Honestly, this deserves to be lower. Like I said, I think this is the worst Thor movie ever made, mostly because this movie had so much potential. Thor was in such an interesting place post-Endgame. This really could have been a good opportunity to dive deep into this character, have some introspective storytelling. Not to mention that they butchered the Gore the God Butcher storyline, and they also butchered the Mighty Thor story from the comics where Jane Foster becomes Thor. You bring in Christian Bale and bring back Natalie Portman to do the two most iconic Thor storylines in like the last 30 years, just to give us two half-baked versions of both of those stories. I don't think it's either of the actors' fault. I think this is one of the worst scripts that the MCU has ever made. And you can kind of tell that Natalie Portman really phoned it in this movie. She did not want to be in this movie. And my guess would be like just the absurd amounts of improv that made it into this movie. But yeah, I could go on and on about this movie. It's trash. It deserves to be at the bottom. But I guess at 50, I'll let it slide. Ooh, okay. This one hurts. This one hurts. The Incredible Hulk from 2008. Honestly, I like this movie. I think it aged pretty well, and I do think that this is the best Hulk movie that we've ever gotten. Hulk in the MCU is definitely diminishing returns after this movie, so I think that this deserves a much higher spot just because of that. I think Edward Norton plays the role of Bruce Banner a lot better than Mark Ruffalo, and honestly, this isn't even the worst movie in Phase 1. So yeah, this hurts me. This movie should not be this low. And right above it is Iron Man 2. Again, I think this is way too low. I do think that Iron Man 2 and The Incredible Hulk are similar in quality, but they do not deserve to be this low on the list. Yeah, this is bad. I feel like this is the start of the bullshit in this list. Okay, 47, Echo. There's no way that this is better than Iron Man 2 and Incredible Hulk. There's just no way. This is probably I think actually this is definitely the worst MCU show. I wanted to like this show so bad, but this show is just nothing. This is a nothing character. Honestly, I'm surprised that this character got their own show to begin with. It doesn't add any more depth to her character. It doesn't add anything to the wider MCU. Frankly, I don't even know why this was made. Again, I really wanted to like this show, but it's just so forgettable. This show should be even lower on this ranking. 46, Eternals. I really did like this movie when it first came out, mostly just because it felt so different than everything else that we got in the MCU up until that point. I felt like the cinematography and the visuals really carried a lot of this movie for me personally, but over the years, I've definitely started to dislike this movie a lot more. It introduces like 10 new characters, and it doesn't go deep enough for me to care about any of them. This is a very wide but not deep movie. And frankly, it's kind of disappointing because there are some really good actors in this movie that we'll probably never see again in the MCU. This movie sets so much stuff up, and the movie did so poorly that we'll probably never see those loose ends get tied up in the end. So yeah, honestly, I don't hate this placement. 45, Captain America, Brave New World. Honestly, this movie I wish was a lot better, but frankly, it's just not. I don't think this movie is bad, but it's just really not great. It's nothing special. It doesn't stand out at all. It's very predictable. It didn't really take any risks whatsoever. In fact, I would say that it kind of went out of its way to not take any risks. I feel like this is one of those movies that just suffered because of its production. It was in production hell for years, doing reshoots and reshoots, and I'm honestly surprised that this movie turned out as good as it did. So yeah, I think this placement is totally fine. Next up, we have The Falcon and the Winter Soldier series. Honestly, I don't think that this show is very rewatchable. I think this show does a lot for Sam and Bucky's characters, exploring who they are as individuals and how they work together as a team. But the best element about this show is Sam's journey to reclaiming the shield and his relationship with Isaiah Bradley. I didn't think that the MCU would touch a subject like that, but I'm glad they went as hard on that topic as they did. But yeah, overall, I think like after episode 4, it really starts to get worse in quality, in my opinion. It has been a while since I watched it, so maybe I'd like it more on a rewatch. But yeah, this is about the same in quality as Captain America: Brave New World. All of the seasons of What If are combined in this ranking. I definitely think that some seasons are better than others. In fact, I think the first season is pretty good, and then it's just diminishing returns each subsequent season. This show really pisses me off because they literally have an infinite amount of stories that they could tell through this show, and each season they come up with less and less interesting topics and ideas. Like, honestly, who was asking for a Darcy and Howard the Duck episode? Literally no one. Like, it's the multiverse. You have the freedom to tell any story, and the stories that they would settle for were just so bad. So yeah, honestly, this might even be a little bit lower on my list personally. Okay. Avengers Age of Ultron at 42. What? Okay, I need to say this. I am tired of the Age of Ultron slander. This movie is not bad. For starters, this is the last time that we get to see the Avengers united until Avengers Endgame. It picks up from a nice place after Avengers 1. We see great team-up moments between a lot of the Avengers. We see that they're a force to be reckoned with. We see how well they work together, but it also plants the seeds for the inevitable breakup that happens in Captain America: Civil War. Also, a lot of people hate on this version of Ultron because he's not a cold, emotionless robot, which I get, that's who he is in the comics, and him having a personality is literally antithetical to who that character is. But I feel like having the Ultron that we get in this movie works really well for this universe. One, AI is already a thing in the MCU, and there's a lot of heightened technology in this universe, so it would only make sense that Ultron is as advanced, if not more advanced, than Jarvis. Plus, who are you going to cast to play a stone-cold, emotionless robot? It's not like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator, you know, it's not like he's still physically acting. They totally replace him with CGI. It doesn't even look like a human. So I feel like that would be a disservice to any actor that they cast to come in, pay him millions of dollars to give him the most deadpan deliveries that don't require any acting. Not to mention, Ultron has some of the coldest lines in the MCU. He's up there with Thanos. So yeah, this honestly is probably a top 20 MCU movie for me at the very least. So the fact that it's this low, that's bullshit. Okay, 41, Werewolf by Night. Honestly, it's pretty good. I honestly wish the MCU did more stuff like this, like these feature presentations, hour-long short films for lesser-known characters. I think that would work a lot better than giving obscure characters a whole movie or TV show. I honestly wish they would use this format a lot more. I really like it. Honestly, I don't really have too much to say about this. I mean, so yeah, I guess this ranking is fine. Okay, number 40 is Thor 1. I think that this is the weakest Phase 1 MCU movie, but I feel like this is still a little bit too low. I rewatched it relatively recently, and I think it's aged pretty well. It honestly might be the best Thor movie. So yeah, I feel like this ranking is way too low. Okay, number 39 is She-Hulk Attorney at Law. Honestly, guys, I kind of like this show. I like how different it is from every other MCU show. For one, it's 9 episodes as opposed to the typical 6. She-Hulk is not like a superhero. She's not out there fighting crime. She's a superpowered being with a day job. And I think it gives us an interesting glimpse on a different side of the MCU. A more grounded look at what this world looks like with superheroes on a day-to-day basis. I also think that they adapted She-Hulk really well. I think Tatiana Maslany does a really good job with this character. Whether you like this character or not, you can't help but think that this really feels like the character was taken from the page onto the screen. So yeah, I could defend this movie all day. Again, I don't think it's great. I don't think it's the best MCU show, but it definitely gets way too much hate. So honestly, I feel like I'd put it just a little bit higher than this placement, but I'm not gonna fight it. Okay, Ant-Man and the Wasp should be all the way towards the bottom. I mean, this is one of the worst MCU movies. I'd honestly put it right above Thor: Love and Thunder. The MCU used Ant-Man and the Wasp as a crutch to launch the quantum realm, so they'd have that plot hole for Endgame. But overall, this is a nothing movie. This should be like all the way at the bottom of the list. I do not like this movie. Wow, okay. The Fantastic Four First Steps is at 37. That's way too low. I think the cast does a really good job in this movie. I love the aesthetic of this universe that they live in. I love the whole retro futuristic vibe. I feel like they really capture the essence of each character, and I feel like this is the first time that these characters actually felt like a family on the big screen. It might be recency bias, but I honestly think this is way too low. I feel like this is at least top 20. Okay, Black Widow. Honestly, it's been a long time since I rewatched this movie, but this movie pisses me off because, one, they released it after the character was already canonically dead. They should have released this after Civil War. I don't know why they didn't. And two, they released it like in the middle of a pandemic, so nobody went to go see this. I feel like they botched this movie just like on a distribution standpoint, but honestly, I can't really remember too much about the actual movie. I remember the relationships being really well done between Natasha and Yelena and Red Guardian and everyone, but I also remember how bad they butchered Taskmaster, so honestly, I feel like this should be a little bit lower on the list. Okay, Iron Man 3. I do not like this movie. I feel like it deserves to be down there with Thor: Love and Thunder and Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, like throw it down there with those movies. Nobody wants to see Iron Man without the suit. That's what makes Iron Man cool. And also how this movie handled like the mental health representation in the forms of Tony's panic attacks and anxiety was so bad. Like the way that Tony literally just gets over it just because some kid told him to snap out of it is so bad. It's so bad. But yeah, this movie, it's one of the worst things that the MCU has made, in my opinion. Okay, Captain Marvel. This movie's not good. I feel like this is one of the most formulaic Marvel movies that the MCU has ever put out. Like, by this point, they were like, okay, we have the formula down pat. We just know how to make the most digestible movie that the most amount of people can watch. But unfortunately, they forgot to give Carol a personality in the process. Plus, I feel like the non-linear storytelling element did not work in this movie's favor. I would put it like right above Iron Man 3, Thor: The Dark World, right around there. Okay, now we have the Marvels. Now, I think that the Marvels is so much better than Captain Marvel. I love how the characters of Kamala, Carol, and Monica bounce off each other. I think they work really well with each other. Carol also has like flaws and makes mistakes in this movie. She's not perfect like she is in Captain Marvel. Not only does she mess up with the whole Kree situation, but she also messes up with her relationship with Monica, like on a personal level. So I like how that's explored in this movie. But overall, I think that this is just like a fun, brisk action adventure movie that feels a lot like a comic book. So yeah, I think that this is a lot better than Captain Marvel. And it gets way too much hate. It's not great, it's not perfect, but I think that it's a fun time. Okay, next is Miss Marvel. So honestly, I guess it's around the same in quality as the Marvels. I might like it a little bit less because I love the Kamala Khan stuff with her and her family and the high school drama and her crushes and everything. But I don't like the superhero stuff. It's really weird. Like as soon as the superhero stuff comes into play, I get bored. I feel like that's when the really cringy stuff starts to come out in this show. And as soon as that starts to pick up, like all the other like high school stuff is dropped, which kind of upsets me. So yeah, I think it's about the same as the Marvels, but I think overall I enjoy the Marvels a little bit more. Okay, Ant-Man. Honestly, I don't hate this placement. Similar to Captain Marvel, I think that this is a very formulaic MCU movie, but I do enjoy this movie a lot more than Captain Marvel. I think Paul Rudd is a really good addition to this franchise, but I feel like the Ant-Man franchise should have stopped after this movie. I don't think that he should have gotten a trilogy of movies. That's kind of crazy when you think about it. I think that it goes without saying that this is the best Ant-Man movie, and I would argue that this is the only good Ant-Man movie. Okay, top 30 is Ironheart. Honestly, I was pleasantly surprised with how much I enjoyed this show. It just came out recently at time of recording this, and I just loved how different it was from most MCU shows. Ironheart is not a perfect character. She's very flawed. She makes selfish choices and mistakes, and she's not a superhero. She's not fighting crime. In fact, she's committing crime. She's using the suit for her own personal gain. And I think that's a really interesting take, a really interesting story to tell with a character like this. Also, I won't spoil it, but the finale was honestly one of the best finales that the MCU ever did. So yeah, I think that this is one of the better MCU shows. Top 30 is probably accurate, so this placement is probably okay. 29, Doctor Strange. Honestly, I don't like this movie. I've seen it a bunch of times, and I find Doctor Strange fundamentally unlikable. And I know that's the point, that he's a complete douchebag, and then by the end of the movie, he's not supposed to be a douchebag, but he's still a douchebag. I would argue he's even more arrogant at the end of the movie than he is in the beginning. I don't know, I think the visuals really carry a lot for this movie, yet Doctor Strange doesn't do that many spells on his own. I think by this point, I was just really sick of the origin stories. I just want like already established characters. So yeah, it's just really boring to wait for like an hour and a half until Doctor Strange can do like the spinny portal thing. Yeah, I don't like this movie. I get that it's like a well-made movie, but I just don't like it. I don't find it entertaining. So honestly, I would put it a little bit lower on this list. Okay, 28 is Thunderbolts. Also, this came out in 2025. I don't know what that 2024 business is doing there, but this to me, I really like this movie. I think this is one of the best MCU movies in recent years. It honestly might be in my top 10 MCU movies. Again, maybe that's recency bias, but this is the first MCU movie in a long time that actually had something to say. I love what they did with Yelena's character. This movie really made her one of my favorite characters post-Endgame, and I was really shocked on how well they adapted Sentry into live action. I was a little nervous, I was a little scared, but I feel like they adapted him pretty well, especially incorporating the personality of the Void to Bob's like mental health. I thought was really well done. This is the first like group of characters since the Guardians that like I actually care about in the MCU. So yeah, honestly, I think that this is probably a top 10 MCU movie. This is way too low. Okay, 27, Daredevil Born Again. Yeah, I didn't love this show. I thought it was pretty good, and I think that it's a step in the right direction when it comes to Marvel television. But yeah, this show didn't hold a candle to any of the Netflix series, which is disappointing, but honestly, how could it? The Netflix show is just so peak. But yeah, there were some things that I didn't like, and there were some things that I did like that were really good. So 27, this is probably accurate, maybe a little bit higher, but I think that season 2 is going to be a lot stronger. Okay, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. I have a confession to make. I've never seen this. I know I need to watch it. I know I've heard it's really, really good, and I do want to watch it, but I haven't at time of recording this, so I can't rank it. Okay, 25, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Similar to Age of Ultron, this movie gets way too much hate. I find it more entertaining than the original. For one, Doctor Strange actually uses spells in this movie. Again, this movie isn't perfect, especially when it comes to Doctor Strange's character arc. It's pretty much the same as the last movie. I also think that a lot of people were expecting this movie to be what Deadpool and Wolverine was, just a cavalcade of cameos, and it's not. I remember people thinking that they were going to see Ben Affleck's Daredevil and Hugh Jackman's Wolverine and Tom Cruise's superior Iron Man with all the Infinity Stones. So when they didn't get that, they were pissed. Even though I feel like the fan service that we did get with the Illuminati was really good. Not only did we get Patrick Stewart's Professor Xavier, but we got John Krasinski's Mr. Fantastic, who had been fan cast up until that point for that character for years. Similar to the Marvels, I think that this is just a fun adventure movie that feels a lot like a comic book. It's nothing incredible, but I think it's still a fun comic booky movie. So yeah, 25, I don't hate that placement. Woof. Woof. Okay. Okay. The bullshit's creeping in again. The bullshit's creeping in again. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 at 24 is actually insane. It's actually insane. This to me is a top 5 MCU movie. I think it's the best Guardians of the Galaxy movie. I think it's the most emotional Marvel movie ever made, and it might be James Gunn's best movie. So the fact that this is at 24 is egregious. It's just wrong. I don't like this. Moving on. Okay. Okay, how are you gonna have the holiday special above Guardians 3? What? Don't get me wrong, I like this special. And again, I wish the MCU utilized this format a lot more for their projects, but there's no shot that this is better than Guardians 3. I'm sorry. This is bad, okay? This is bad. Okay, Spider-Man Far From Home. Honestly, I flip-flop a lot on this movie. There's some things I really like about it, some things I don't. I love the Peter Parker stuff in this movie. I think it's really, really good. I really like how well Mysterio was adapted into this movie, but I just hate how he's an Iron Man villain. And I think the worst part about this movie is that they keep enforcing this Iron Man Jr. narrative on Tom Holland's Spider-Man. It was already bad enough in Homecoming, but they doubled down in this movie. So honestly, 22, that's probably an accurate spot for this movie. Number 21, Hawkeye. I really like this series. I think it is one of the stronger Marvel shows. I think Haley Steinfeld's Kate Bishop is a nice addition to the MCU. I wish we got to see more of her. Besides a cameo, we haven't seen anything from her in, the last 4 years. So yeah, this placement is probably pretty accurate in my opinion. Okay, top 20. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. This is a good movie. I feel like they honored Chadwick Boseman really well, and I feel like this is the best acted movie in the MCU. I feel like the performances in this movie are better than like any other performance in the MCU, especially Letitia Wright and Angela Bassett. I feel like those two performances really shined in this movie. This movie is a little bit long. It drags a little bit, but overall, I think this is a good movie. I feel like this is a pretty good placement for this movie. Okay, 19, Captain America: The First Avenger. This is too low. This is too low. This is a top 10 MCU movie for me. I think this and Iron Man 1 are the two best origin stories in the MCU. I have them like neck and neck in the top 10. So yeah, this hurts. This is too low. Okay, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. It's been a while since I rewatched this movie, but I think this movie is pretty overrated. The fight scenes are some of the best in the MCU. The villain is one of the best villains in the MCU. I love the personal connection between him and Shang-Chi. The father and son dynamic is really well done, but there are also some things in this movie that really hold it back. For one, Awkwafina's line deliveries are some of the cringiest and corniest in the MCU. I feel like her character is like all the bad MCU comedy personified into one character. She might be the most insufferable character in the MCU. Also, the third act isn't great when you have this mystical army versus this other weird monster army. And I feel like throwing that dragon in for like the last 5 minutes just felt really cheap. This movie also sets up so many things that we have not seen any payoff for. So yeah, I feel like this movie is really overrated. Maybe I need to rewatch it again, but yeah, I feel like this is too high of a placement. Okay, 17, Deadpool and Wolverine. I like this movie for what it was. I feel like you can barely call this movie a movie. It really was just a parade of cameos, which honestly I liked. It was really fun. There were a lot of cameos that I was not expecting to see at all. I honestly don't really care for Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, but seeing Hugh Jackman in the yellow and blue spandex was absolutely worth the price of admission. But yeah, I didn't think this movie was great. It's really like a love letter to the Fox characters, which is pretty cool, but yeah, this is like barely movies, so I feel like this is a little bit too high. Don't think it's in the top 20. Okay, Agatha All Along. Guys, don't hate me, but I also have not seen this. I've heard good things. I've heard it's really good, but when I saw that they were giving the villain of a spin-off show their own show, I really just wanted to reject every bit of this, just kind of for those petty, selfish reasons. But I probably will watch this series sometime down the line, but I haven't seen it, so I can't rank it. Okay, woof. The Avengers 1 at 15. This is a top 5 MCU movie for me. Depending on the day of the week, this might be my favorite Avengers movie. I maintain the opinion that this is the most rewatchable movie in the MCU. It's literally perfect. So this at 15, this hurts. This is wrong. The bullshit is back, and I don't like it. At 14, Spider-Man Homecoming. Yeah, this shit is not better than Avengers 1. What are you talking about? This honestly might be my least favorite Spider-Man movie. Again, I just hate how they reinforce this idea that Peter wants to be just like Tony Stark, and they basically like soft launch him to be the new Iron Man. But also, I think the Peter Parker stuff is some of the best Peter Parker stuff that we've ever gotten in any Spider-Man movie. But at the end of the day, this ranking is just way too high. Way too high. Okay. Woof. Captain America: Civil War at 13. I think that this is my number 1. This is absolutely in my top 5, but I think that this is my favorite MCU movie. And I feel like a lot of people would agree with that. So the fact that it's not even in the top 5, not even in the top 10, that's bad. So yeah, I can't even imagine what the rest of this list is gonna look like if Civil War is at 13. And Avengers of Avengers Infinity War is at 12. Again, a lot of people would consider this movie to be the best comic book movie of all time. It's not in the top 5. It's not in the top 10. I don't get this list anymore. I I don't get this. Okay, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Honestly, I think I have Guardians 1 and 2 like right next to each other, and I feel like it is around this placement, just outside of my top 10. But to say that this movie is better than Civil War, Avengers 1, and Avengers Infinity War is just wrong. It's just wrong. Correct placement, but it should not be over those other movies. Okay, top 10. Loki Season 1 and Season 2. This is the best MCU show. This show made Loki to be one of my favorite MCU characters, but I just don't think it's in the top 10 best things that the MCU has ever made. You don't have to convince me that this is the best show they've ever made, but in the top 10 things they've ever made, I don't know about that. Okay, Thor Ragnarok. I forgot about this movie. Thor Ragnarok is interesting because I like this movie less and less every time I rewatch it. I think it's because I've been burned so badly by Thor Love and Thunder that I see the seeds that were sown into this movie that made its way into Thor Love and Thunder, and I resent it for it. Also, Thor's character is like really weird in this movie. He's very manipulative. His whole time on Sakaar, he just spends trying to manipulate Valkyrie and Hulk into helping his crusade to win back Asgard. From his point of view, it's a noble thing he's trying to do, but he doesn't care about Valkyrie's life. I mean, sure, she's kind of rotting as a drunk on this planet, but he's not trying to help her through her trauma at all. He's just kind of trying to gaslight her into helping him. He does the same thing with Hulk. He tries to manipulate the Hulk into helping him, and then when the Hulk turns back into Bruce Banner, he tries to manipulate Bruce Banner into helping him, and Bruce Banner actually calls him out. It's kind of played off as a joke, but Banner is totally right. Anyways, this should absolutely not be in the top 10. If you asked me in 2017 if this were in my top 10, oh yeah, it'd probably be in my top 3. But in the year 2025, this probably is not even making the top 25. Again, might not even be the best Thor movie. Okay, number 8, we have Iron Man. Honestly, I don't hate this placement. Like I said, I think I have this and Captain America, the First Avenger, like neck and neck, probably around 8 or 9, or maybe 9 and 10. So yeah, honestly, I don't hate this placement. Number 7, Spider-Man No Way Home. This is definitely in my top 10, just because they got the 3 live action Spider-Man on screen together. I didn't care what it took to do it, but they did it. And I feel like they did it really well. And it also gave a lot of growth to Tom Holland's Spider-Man, which sets him up really nicely in Spider-Man Brand New Day. So yeah, again, I don't hate this placement. Number 6, okay, X-Men 97. I don't know why, but I don't like consider this an MCU project. I don't know, it doesn't really feel like original to me, so I don't really associate this with being an MCU project, but okay, I guess fine. We'll place it there. Okay, we're getting down to the top 5. I wonder what this is gonna look like. Number 5, Captain America and the Winter Soldier. This absolutely should be in the top 5. I feel like a lot of people would say that this is their favorite MCU movie, and honestly, depending on the day, I might say that too. But I think for the time being, I have this movie right at number 5. So yeah, I think this placement is perfect. What are we doing? What? WandaVision at 4? WandaVision is the 4th best thing the MCU has ever made. What? It's better than Avengers 1? It's better than Civil War, Winter Soldier, Infinity War? Don't get me wrong, this is one of the best MCU shows, even though the finale was pretty bad. This is not the 4th best thing the MCU's ever made. I'm in shock. I'm in disbelief. How could they put this at number 4? I honestly don't even want to read this paragraph that they wrote for it, but I'm speechless. What the hell? Okay, top 3. We'll see how this plays out. Whew. Guardians of the Galaxy. Again, this is a great movie. I think this is right outside my top 10. And this is one of the best movies to introduce to somebody who isn't familiar with the MCU, but top 3? No. See, this is where I would have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I think that movie is just a little bit better. Okay, I mean, this top 5, I don't know. It's not looking great. Black Panther, okay. I really do like this movie. I really do like Black Panther. I love the impact that this movie had on, just pop culture in general. But I don't think that this is number 2. I just don't think so. I think it falls apart a little bit in the third act. But honestly, I respect the bold choice. I respect this bold choice at Black Panther because, it had something to say. The villain is great. There were impactful themes in this movie. The costume design and art direction are insane. So yeah, I guess I'll respect it. Which leaves number 1 to be, Avengers Endgame. Okay. Honestly, I don't hate that. It's not my personal number 1, but I can't hate on this. The finale to like the greatest movie franchise. I mean, this finale was done so well. It was so satisfying. I honestly can't hate this number 1 pick. I can't. So yeah, overall, this list wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. There were some egregious placements, don't get me wrong, but I felt like a lot of the time there was stuff that I was agreeing with. But what do you think? Do you think this list from beginning to end was just awful? Or do you think that overall they pretty much hit it on the head? I'd love to know in the comments below. Also, if you'd love to see my MCU ranking, let me know. I feel like I would love to do a video like that if that's something that people want to see. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the video. Please be sure to give it a like and subscribe so you don't miss my next video. I'll see you in the next one.